ahead and call the meeting of the Fair Board Commissioners together for Tuesday, June 14th. And I do want to make sure to note our new time of 4 p.m. is our start from now on. Go ahead and read the legal notice as information for our audience. If you're not satisfied with the decision made by the Metro Board of Fair Commissioners today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery Court, Circuit Court, Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the board's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact your own independent legal counsel. And if you guys see us swatting anything up here, we have the invasion of the fruit flies. So I will now ask for a chance for you to review the minutes of the previous meeting, and then I'll ask for a motion to approve those as written.
So moved.
Second.
Seeing a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. None opposed, motion passes. We'll now move to public comment time, and we will limit that to 2 minutes per person. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? If you'll please share your name, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, which is really nice to say. Shane Smiley, Brush Hill Road, Nashville. I want to thank the commissioners for voting to move this to an afternoon meeting so that we can grow the amount of public input that's going to come your way. It helps a lot for people that are running small businesses and our employees of small businesses to be able to get away and be here for this. So I think it's going to grow in time and you're going to see more. So many thanks for doing that. As we're looking through the things on the business, the community impact and Speedway policy discussion and consideration, it would be nice to have somebody from the local Fairgrounds race community be a part of this discussion as well. We have representation from the neighborhood, we have representation from an out-of-town promoter, but we do not have representation within this from the locals that have been here for generations and decades. So I hope that's an adjustment you'll make to find a way to put somebody on from the local Speedway advocates that are a part of it and give us a voice as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to seek the opportunity to visit with us? Seeing none, we will close that portion of the public comment time, and we will move to monthly reports, and I'll call on Director Womack to share an events update.
Thank you. I will just note that we do not have a financial update this month. We will double up next month, and it is the end of our fiscal year. It ends on the 30th of this month, so it'll take a couple months after that to close out the books and such, but we'll have a better understanding of where we ended up in the next couple months. As far as the event update, you can see the next 3 months in your packet, and I think it's very clear how absolutely busy we are. Almost every single day is booked. If you look in July, I mean, most months have only 3 or 4 days that we do not have someone in these buildings or on our property with events. So it's a very, very, very busy summer. It's going to stress staff, our small staff, but we've had a lot of help, and we know that we're going to pull together and pull this off. I will note that we've been working on recruiting some national shows. Some people have some shows have reached out to us who have seen our new venue and interested in bringing outdoor shows and sports shows here. So we're looking forward to kind of expanding and filling up our vacant weekends moving into 2023. As our contract with soccer contemplates, we'll be putting our 2023 schedule together. That goes to the soccer team by July 1st. So we'll be putting that together and working together very successfully, just like we did last year, as far as scheduling around each other when we do games and events, and so far so good. We actually had a combo weekend this past weekend where we had a game along with Porter Flea, and we compromised and split parking, and it ended up to be a very successful weekend, having multiple things on campus at the same time. So lots on the event schedule. Again, encourage everyone to check our website, thefairgrounds.com. That is always updated by Christy to make sure that our event schedule is up to date.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, would you please move into the director's report?
Yes. I will note that we do have a Fair Board Commissioner nomination that's been presented by the Mayor's Office to Council. His name is Mr. Anthony Owens. That'll be contemplated on the 21st. So it'll go to Rules Committee, and then it will go to Council on Tuesday. So I'm not sure if you know Anthony. He works for Dugard Communications, so we're looking forward to having a full roster of commissioners. I will note, just for general information, we're going to be doing some repairs on the grandstands. We had one of our precast slabs shift. We had some masonry settling underneath the grandstands. We had it looked at immediately by a structural engineer. It's not anything imminent or dangerous at this point, but it does need repair. So we have contracted with a group to come in and do masonry repairs prior to our SRX race so that the grandstands are good to go, and they've shored that up and repaired that masonry and that slab, shifted it back into its proper location before the 8th of July. So just wanted to bring that up. That's come up since the last time we met. Another thing that we want to bring up in as far as the SRX weekend, that was it was our biggest race by far, and one of our biggest events that we've had on campus last year, and we're very much looking forward to them coming back. They're scheduled for the 8th and 9th. In conversations with with Scott Menlin and Bob Sargent, we have run into some logistic issues with the scheduling for that weekend to make sure that we have adequate time and an adequate amount of support for our local racing. So in the SRX race, the normal schedule from last year was racing on and practice on Friday, all day Friday, and then on Saturday as well. In order to make sure we have ample time for local racing, in consultation with Bob and Scott, we are proposing that we shift the local racing portion to Thursday night from 4 to 9, and then Friday would be 2 blocks for the SRX practice, and then a full day of racing on Saturday. So it would be a little bit longer weekend than we normally schedule because it is Thursday, some on Friday and on Saturday, but I did want to bring that up. It's a little bit of a schedule change than what we had originally had on our schedule. And I know Scott's here if there's any questions for him, if there's any SRX specific question. Overall, for those 2 days, time on the track will be reduced from what it was last year.
Any board member have a question? Seeing none, we'll move on. Okay, we're going to move into old business, and we will go ahead and bring up Fairgrounds Improvement.
All right. Again, good afternoon for the first time. It's a pleasure to be in front of you again, board, staff, and council. This afternoon, I'll be presenting a budget update, as usual, from the budget dashboards. I'll be starting, as usual, with the blue dashboard sheet, representative of the Fairgrounds Improvements. And then once I move forward, I'll also cover the Fair Park, which is in green if you have those in color. I'd like to always start off by saying the figures presented to you will be about 45 to 60 days in arrears from actual activity that's taking place. But with that being said, I'll dive into it. Just want to start off by saying we're approaching $1 million remaining of funds within the Fairgrounds Improvement budget. And, you know, it's a milestone that we've taken a long time to reach, definitely maximized the spend of those dollars. But I'd like to say that approximately 40% of those remaining funds are actually allocated to the grandstands. Now, Laura, or I should say Executive Womack, Executive Director Womack mentioned some of the structural improvements that'll need to take place prior to the next race. We've also allocated a significant portion of funding to address some electrical needs at the grandstands and the Speedway as well. But the remainder of funds are primarily dispersed amongst the remaining activity to take place at the maintenance or multi-purpose area, and then FF&E expenditures that we still have planned kind of on our board as we move through the budget. Other than that, what you will see in front of you is a few line items that still have costs allocated. Of course, our design team still has a little bit of funds related to work at the multi-purpose building, and then our project management staff as well. So just wanted to give an overview there as we run to the finish line. We are at 97% approximately spent as it relates to those projects, and so nearing that milestone of about $1 million remaining. Are there any questions about the blue dashboard? Seeing that there are none, on the green page is related to Fair Park, and what you'll see is phase one. Again, there's typically no activity there. Again, no activity. That project and the funds there are still remaining at about 97%, essentially being held until we have a full program and a design to move forward with phase two. And then on the phase two section, a little bit of movement there since the last time, but those costs represent our design and engineering efforts moving forward, as well as our project management team's coordination of meetings and working with some of our other departments. And so juxtaposed to the 97% in the other reports, we're right at the very beginning of phase two, and so only 2% of that budget has been expended to this point.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
One question here. So when do we expect to see movement forward on phase two of Fair Park?
Brian, you want to start off there? Yeah, there you go.
Flip a coin, gentlemen.
Well, we're in an awkward situation, Commissioner. It's we're chasing an insane building environment out there with inflation running and well into the double digits, and the needs that have grown for this project have exceeded the amount of money available right now. So we're looking at various options. We met with NDOT, we've met with Metro Water, we've met with other agencies to try to find a way to resolve that. So the answer is we hope to be able to get going in the next few months, but it's a challenge right now in this building environment. You know, we've got contractors, concrete. I was told last week that one of the largest concrete suppliers won't bid government work. Those kind of crazy things, and I've got a 50-year history in construction, and I've never seen anything like this, what's going on. So we're still trying to figure out how to get those things working and get it where all the needs are met in a logical order as we finish the project. It's a good question. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer. But we meet every week on it.
Anybody else have questions? Go ahead.
Well, I'll continue. That was one of my things I was hoped to update you on, but I would like to go ahead. First of all, I'd like to mention that Roxanne Bethune, right over here, Roxanne has been handling the diversity program on all of this work on the campus. She was in front of you frequently, in front of the commission frequently when we were building these buildings. But since all of you weren't here then, I want to let you know what a important role she's played. So just say, yeah, a couple things.
Okay, well, hello, I guess, to some of you that I do know and some that I don't. Roxanne Bethune, as Ron has said, is my name. My name of the company is Alliance Synergy Group. We're a diversity business consultant. And as he has stated, we've been tracking the diversity participation on the project from the beginning, and we're currently getting there, talking through the conversation with the team. If most of you know and familiar with Metro's diversity participation goals, we started out with a 20, they increased it to a 25, and I want to share with you guys, we basically have exceeded that. When you look at all of the components as it relates to tracking diversity participation, starting out with Skanska and doing this project, and then going from this project to the park, and then from the park to the first phase to the second phase, and then coming back and doing the maintenance building, and then coming back and doing some, last minute repairs on this. We still have some dollars that are still outstanding. So I'm thinking that probably by the fall, we will have a final report on all of those buildings, including the work that we've done on phase 1 and phase 2, but we'll be able to give you guys a comprehensive report. But I am excited about the fact that we are having a very, very robust part when it looks like we're going to exceed that 25% participation that Metro had put on the project. And that's kind of all I have, but it's good to see you guys. I'm excited. It's been 2.5 years.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you so much.
Yeah, I do want to emphasize, she hasn't been seen, but she's been playing a critical role all the way through. And we, on a monthly basis, deal with this. One other thing that Ed mentioned, the $1 million that we have, that balance that we're talking about, was from savings in the maintenance building and savings on some of the demolition and some of the other work. We're having to do some emergency things to the grandstands to keep it operational, the Speedway operational. We're also going to be expanding a bay of the maintenance building as we're trying to get all that done. In addition, we did have, if you recall, a Miss Andal came by last time and talked about accessibility on the campus. We had a tour of the campus last week with her and about 20 people representing the various departments around the campus. NDOT, WeGo, I'm sure I'm forgetting a few, and several with their ADA component of that. The new projects, the projects done since 2016, are in good shape. This part of the campus is in good shape. The phase 1 of Fair Park is in good shape. The stadium obviously is in good shape. The infrastructure project, which threads between all of these and will be finished in September or October, will help tie it all together. What we did learn, right, Commissioner, is that we can do a better job with signage and markings. And it's not required by ADA, we got that covered, but really making it where somebody in a wheelchair can plan their trips around the campus so they don't get caught in a dead end. So we're going to be working on trying to get that done and making those changes. So that, we did accomplish that last week. And essentially, I think we've covered all of those. Are there any questions on these things?
I just have a quick comment. Thank you for taking the time to do this and working, to make this happen as fast as you could. I was out of town for work, so I couldn't make it, but I really appreciate you making sure that happened. Thank you. And
if any of you would like to have a little more detail about where each of the projects stand, I'll be happy to sit down and kind of go through all the background and where things are. So I guess on the mixed use, Mary, you're going to speak on mixed use and the stadium, all right?
Good afternoon. I think as everybody knows, we opened the stadium on May 1st with over 30,000 folks, and it was really a successful opening. I'll give a kind of a final quick recap on construction, and that should be the last time that we'll talk about that. And Dirk was not able to join us, so I'll also provide his mixed-use update. So the stadium was completed with slightly over 1 million labor hours. And with that many hours, we had 1 recordable injury and no lost time injuries, which is really just fantastic. We also had a contractual requirement of 30% of DBE spend, and we came in at 36%. And then our construction manager, Mortensen Messer JV, self-imposed a women and minority labor hour goal of 22%, and came in at 49%. So we're just thrilled that we could deliver that for Nashville. The team is continuing on, I guess, what I would call some day 2 minor operational items that they're fixing, but really there's no major items, and we don't expect any. We have 1 more match in June on Sunday, on Father's Day. During the month of July, we have 4 matches, and as Laura indicated, our teams are working very closely. We're learning as we're going. We're trying to react as quickly as we can and figure out the best experience for all the users on the campus, as well as the neighbors and everyone else. So I'll pause here. That's the stadium update, to see if there's any questions.
I have one quick question, Madam Chair. I attended the first game, and I realized that there was a internet issue. Like I could not get service. Has that been addressed?
Yes, so
Okay.
there's actually 2 things. So they were able to, and this is beyond my technical knowledge, but fine tune the internet receivers, so that's been fixed. We're also working on what's called a distributed antenna system and getting the carriers online, and when that happens, we'll have a full, robust coverage. So that's currently underway. Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. Thank you. Big difference from the first game, and then I was here on Saturday, and just big difference in terms of flow and response for the team, and also Ron for setting that up last week. It was great to see the whole team. There were so many different agencies here, and I think to you, Laura, for getting the work done on the gates for the pedestrian walkway. It's just, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the quick response that the whole team had. And lastly, I think as we think about those in the public, this is why we moved it to 4 o'clock, so we have more of that direct feedback from our communities as to how we can improve, because we're not there every day, and I think we need your voice as a community to let us know what's not working so that the team can work diligently to try to solve those issues. Thank you.
Okay, and then just briefly on mixed use, the site work is complete. They've achieved the subgrade under the building and the garage footprints. They've got some drilling rigs there that you can see where they're beginning to drill the piers for the foundation. They're also working on some of the steel components that go underneath the building footprint. The hauling and deliveries continue to be from Craighead, and so they're not interfering with the campus or the neighborhood. They're coordinating the underground utilities projects with the team with the infrastructure work, and continuing to work with the Speedway, the stadium, and all the other campus members as they go through this construction phase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any other comments, questions, or anything? Okay. We will then move on to Bristol Motor Speedway update, and I can share that we are still in pending status. Having shared that, we will move on to community impact and the Speedway policy discussion and consideration. Do we have a member of NIAC that wishes to attend? And I think we have Mr. Bergeron.
Hey, good afternoon, Commissioners. It's great to see you all. And I also want to recognize Shay Sapp, another member of NIAC here today with us. And Shay's been a great addition to NIAC over the last couple of years, and alongside a lot of other members. That group has been built out to be really, really robust. So thanks again for having this recurring agenda item to hear from NIAC on community impact and policy considerations. We really appreciate, an honest ability to hear that issue. And obviously that's something I was passionate about when I served on the Fair Board. And we appreciate this this voice not being diluted or distracted from, and that there's truly a forum here. So thank you to all of you commissioners. At the most recent NEAC meeting, there was discussion, as there always is, with Ms. Cavara from Nashville SC about community impact. There weren't any new items really addressed at that time. And likewise, I can't report any other new specific concerns from neighbors in recent weeks. I think I would echo some of the commissioners' concerns that there seems to be game over game improvements and refinements being made. I know NEAC members like me appreciate Ms. Cavara's continued presence at all the meetings and her availability to address issues in real time. So we appreciate the Fair Board's continued attention to those items and just amplifying the importance of them in this first year. I think it'll make a big difference in the long term for the neighborhood as people start to sort of have locked in good neighbor habits related to the neighborhood, going to soccer games and whatnot. There was also some discussion and continued frustration among NEAC members over the Speedway proposal that's being handled in secret and written by SMI and their lobbyists with zero community impact, input, or involvement. I noted that in the recent draft capital improvement budget, the estimated amount of revenue bonds attached to the new Speedway has now swelled from $75 million to $100 million. And of course, the total cost of the entirely new Speedway is unknown. I would just remind the Fair Board that when commissioners were shown a financial model in the fall for the $75 million amount, it contained several severe flaws. And then indeed, when the initial financial analysis was completed in February, which no one is being provided a copy of, it confirmed some of those flaws, which is why the proposal stalled all over again. Despite all that, apparently, the bond amount is increased by 33%. And so apparently work continues, I guess, in secret. SMI's CEO, Marcus Smith, recently gave an interview to NBC Sports declaring that the project was on the 1 yard line of being done. I think myself and other NEAC members are confused how this project could be at the 1 yard line when there have been no details released, financial or otherwise, and there's been no real community engagement as to any actual details. And I'm sure you all can imagine how NEAC members and the community are kind of confused and a bit disgusted with the whole process. So what can you, the Fair Board, do? Well, I would encourage you to start the community impact dialogue yourselves. Some suggestions. You could start scheduling some neighborhood feedback sessions or charrettes on community impact considerations of what a new Speedway would do. You could have discussions at the board level, align around important principles and send that message to the mayor's office. You could absolutely align that the existing protections in the current contract will be honored. You could align that there'll have to be enhanced protections, stronger ones as a result of NASCAR races, as a result of all of the mysterious additional events that SMI and the Nashville Convention and Visitors Bureau are planning at this new Speedway. Those things can send a strong message. And I would just remind the commissioners that every draft agreement that commissioners, at least when I was on the commission, saw, the agreements decimated community protections, created endless loopholes, and things like increasing track rental time by 140%. So you all have the power to drive attention to these community considerations and help define and demand true community protections that we at NEAC would love to see. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks for letting true community impact issues be addressed without being diluted or undermined. We really appreciate that. And of course, NEAC members like me, like Shay, like all the members of NEAC are always available to meet with you and have a continued dialogue. Everything works better when we have that opportunity. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Bergeron? Comments? Okay, thank you, Jason.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, we will now move into new business, and first item in new business is the consideration of some Fair Board bylaw updates. And let me just share that this was originally brought to us by Metro Legal, and as you look in your packet and your materials, you'll see some color-coded comments. Those have come from Metro Legal, and then I've added a couple in here as well as Laura. So we'll be paying attention to Section 3C, addressing the role of the chair and the executive director. 3E, addressing Fair Board vacancies and office holders. 4A, addressing the definition and role of the executive director, as well as some annual performance review additions. I'm going to call for a motion to accept the changes to the bylaws that I'll read, and then we'll discuss and then amend, pass, or decline on them. If everybody's agreeable with the changes, we can take it all in one motion. If not, and we'll start there, and if not, and it looks like we need to separate them, then we'll amend the motion and take them one at a time, okay?
Madam Chairperson, one clarification on the motion. I see two versions here of section 4A, looks like.
Yes.
So is the motion to put up the version in the stapled packet or the alternative version?
It's going to be the alternative version is nothing more than the addition to 4A. The way your agenda item reads is just generic bylaws additions, and we wanted to make sure that everybody had a copy of that. It was like an 11th hour, oh, I need to make sure this is in there, and so I added that. Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to open the floor for approval of the update to the bylaws for the Fair Board. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so let me go in here and just read those. Okay, in C1, if you look at the second paragraph, you'll see the chairperson is authorized to execute leases, contracts, and agreements approved by the Fair Board and may delegate this responsibility to the executive director. That's the additional wording that will go in there. If you look at section E, 3E, however, at the end, it says, however, should such offices become vacant when two or fewer Fair Board meetings remain before the June meeting of a given year, the following procedures shall be followed. If the office of chairperson becomes vacant, the vice chairperson shall serve as chairperson pro tem for the period remaining until the June meeting. If either the office of vice chairperson becomes vacant, or the offices of both chairperson and vice chairperson become vacant, the Fair Board may elect commissioners to serve in those positions pro tem until the June meeting when the new officers are to be elected. This was in direct reference to the rapid turnover we recently had. In 4A, we define executive director as a term used throughout the rules and procedures shall mean executive director or his or her designee. The Fair Board authorizes the executive director on its behalf to negotiate and enter into agreements for terms of less than a year or as delegated by the chairperson pursuant to the Fair Board's authority under the Metro Charter and the Code. And then you'll see this is the last added piece in your additional document. An annual performance review shall be completed by the chair or the vice chair in the absence of the chair of the Board of Fair Commissioners. A recommendation may be made to the Fair Board for a merit-based pay increase commensurate with the Metro guidelines and review of fund availability. And I believe that's it. Have I missed one? I got it all. Okay, so I am now going to open the floor for discussion on the amendments as presented.
Has the full language we just reviewed here been reviewed, and is Metro Legal in agreement with the language?
I'm sorry, the language has been reviewed. It was written by an attorney with Metro Legal, and it is approved by Metro Legal. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll just add that this afternoon, when I added that performance review piece in there, I did review that with Laura Fox, and she and Ashley both approved it. So the answer to your question is yes, completely. Any other questions, comments? Then we'll, go ahead.
I have one, I'm sorry, one other question.
That's okay.
Madam Chairperson. On the ability of the executive director to designate ratification of contracts to a designee, those contracts have to be for less than a year. So the idea is we're designating the designee to enter relatively minor contracts on behalf of the Fair Board, or
Yes.
Fairgrounds.
Yes, Laura, would you take a little stab at that, please?
Sure. So we have several contracts come across my desk on a weekly basis for future events. So these are for building rentals, park rentals, those types of agreements. We had a situation last year where I was traveling out of the country, and then, so it took a vote of the Fair Board to me to delegate that authority to keep those contracts moving in my absence. So this way, this allows that to happen in a more timely consideration for those amusement contracts, which we have the ability to enter into by charter.
Laura, do you have any, or sorry, Director Womack, apologies. I'm new still. Director Womack, do you have any concern, or for the board's consideration, is there any concern about that there's no dollar threshold as to what your a potential designee could enter on behalf of the executive director? I have full confidence in you and your staff, but often in these types of delegations, you might see a dollar threshold in addition to a time threshold.
Thinking at some of the contracts that we have for building rentals, no. No, because a lot of the multi-year and high dollar contracts that we would enter in, a lot of times that is designated to the chair anyway. And so it would be something that is, so for instance, if we were to enter into a long-term contract with a promoter or something to that effect, that would most likely remain with the chair.
Let me just propose, would it make you guys more comfortable if we add an amendment that the chair or vice chair, in the absence of the chair, would be required to review these before any signatures are applied? Just so that there's a little direct oversight?
Yeah, I think a dollar amount threshold would be important. I don't know that we have to review every single one, but I think some sort of monetary threshold would be important.
Is it possible for us to even apply a monetary threshold, given the scope, the differing scope of some of our rentals?
I will point out that these are all revenue generating contracts, so they're not, if that gives you cover, these are monies coming into the fairgrounds for rentals. So large rentals are definitely our goal. So it's not an expense contract of, capital improvements that could cost millions of dollars. These are actually just getting insurance and revenue into the fairgrounds for these rentals.
Would y'all be more comfortable if we amend it to be specific to revenue generating contracts as opposed to expense driven contracts?
I think expense is one category of concern, but potentially you could have an event that has a significant impact, and I would rather have the director's eyes on that event versus a subordinate. I think a dollar threshold still makes me more comfortable, given that any event that's large enough to cause a community impact is going to be a large value. What I don't know is what I think that dollar value should be, because I'm not familiar enough with the rentals to speak to that. But I might suggest that we ask Director Womack to give us a recommendation of what's considered a significant or large event, and we might delegate other contracts to her subordinate, and we might hold those for the chairperson in her absence.
Jasper?
Yeah, but I think that when we're looking at this, and we also understand that it's not just Director Womack that is, she's a director, but she also has a staff that's in charge of events. And this person is looking at contracts and she's working with people on a regular basis to make sure that they have what they need and that they're connected to vendors and all of that. And I think that she's very capable of signing an agreement of this sort. Because it's about bringing money in, and we would like to not lose some time there because the director is out on vacation for a few weeks, but she has this capable staff that she's hired that is actually working the day-to-day operations. So this person is actually looking at the contracts and sees them before the director gets them, as is. So I'm not sure about, because of the dollar amount, because I think the range is pretty much, I think one building is 10,000, one building is 20,000, another, the rent outside is a different, thing. And so when you think about it all, it could cost, $50,000, $60,000, to do an event. But do we wait for a few weeks and then we only have a couple of weeks for the event itself? So I don't know. It's just it's a tricky situation, but I think I'm comfortable enough to say that, the director and her designate at this moment, and then we can take a look at it, and we can always amend, and we can have a discussion, later if we do see that it's a problem with Team Now in the next couple of months. But right now, I think it's something that kind of needs to be put in place, especially as we look into going into summer.
I think that Laura's got some insight she wants to share, and then I'll call back on you, Commissioner Hartley.
Just in regards to value, we have a large event in the fall that just from a building rental standpoint can be about $45,000. So that's one of our biggest rentals on the weekend that does not include, incidentals or furniture, fixtures. That's pure building rental cost, but about that range is one of our larger events on a weekend.
Thank you, Director Womack. That's very helpful. And I think, Commissioner Hendricks, your point's well taken on speed. Being in the event business, I'm very familiar with that. I might suggest an alternative amendment where we insert language that says if the director or her designee determines in their judgment that an event will have a significant impact on the community, that they inform the chair of the Fair Board before signing the agreement. That's just a notice requirement, and that might be sufficient in lieu of a dollar threshold.
So are you proposing an amendment?
I am.
Okay. Is there a second to that friendly amendment?
I second.
So
And I
we're,
think it would be helpful to clarify what the amendment is before we, vote on it.
I was going to ask for him to restate his amendment. That's okay. So would you please restate your amendment, please, so that we can make sure we get the wording correct before we call the vote? And we will vote on the amendment, and then we'll be back on the floor as amended, and we'll continue our discussion of the bylaws.
Okay, the amendment would be as follows. Following the sentence in blue in section 4A of the revised version we're looking at, ending Metro Charter and Code, I propose that we add the language, if the executive director or his or her designee determine that an agreement to be entered into by the delegate of the executive director shall have a significant impact on the community, then before signing the agreement, the delegate shall inform the chairperson of the Fair Board, period. And then we'll continue on an annual performance review. And I would also request that following ratification, if this amendment did pass, that Metro Legal review that language, and if they find it to be in any way problematic, to give us a recommendation to further refine the bylaws.
You okay with that?
Yes, that's no problem.
Okay, so now that we have this reworded, and we will go for the vote at this point. All in favor of the amendment presented by Commissioner Hartley?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Seeing no one in opposition, The amendment passes. We are back on this as amended, and I will take any discussion for any of the other pieces of the amendments throughout the document. Seeing none, we're going to move for a vote on the bylaws as amended. And do I see anyone in support?
So moved.
We've already got the motion.
Yeah.
I just need a vote.
I vote in favor of the amendments.
Okay. Commissioner Hendricks?
I vote in favor.
I vote in favor.
I vote in favor. So the bylaws amended pass, and we will let Metro Legal take a look at those just for clarification of the wording. We are now going to move to nominations and elections of officers, and I will ask for nomination of officers. We're going to start with chair. Are there any nominations from the floor for chair?
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Chairwoman Sherry Weiner, Chair.
Thank you. I'm the only chairwoman here, so. All right, thank you. The floor is open for discussion. Seeing no discussion, I'll move for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm not going to oppose it. Motion passes. We will now move to vice chair. And do I hear a nomination for vice chair?
Yes, I nominate Jasper Hendricks, Commissioner Hendricks.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yes, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No in opposition, so congratulations, Commissioner Hendricks. We are a team that continues on. All right, we are now going to move to open range increase for the executive director. And let me share a little bit of history. I had a conversation with Metro HR Director Shannon Hall. During that conversation, I learned that over the last several years, it doesn't appear that the Fair Board has considered a merit performance increase for her. And she's been with this group for 6 years. Most employees across Metro, including department heads, are eligible for a merit-based increase when funded by Metro on an annual basis, and she recommended that the Fair Board treat our executive directors similarly. She noted that for many years for which she was eligible, she did not receive that merit-based increase, only a cost of living adjustment, which all of our employees received. So I'm going to ask for a motion to consider an open range increase of 15% for Director Womack, depending on department funding ability. During the discussion, I'm going to add some other things, but I want to at least get it on the floor for discussion first. So do I hear a motion to consider the open range increase of 15%?
Madam Chair, I move that we consider the 15% open range increase for Executive Director Womack.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we are going to move to discussion. Does anybody have any comments so far?
I think we should seriously take a look at this and do the right thing and pass it. I mean, things have been phenomenal. The staff has been worked very hard throughout the pandemic, and it's something that should have been done, and I think we should go ahead and do this.
Commissioner Hartley.
I've lived around the fairgrounds for about the past 8 or 9 years, and it is one of the most high-profile projects in Nashville right now. It's a very, very important and large facility. It is challenging, Director Womack, but you're in an odd position right now because we're talking about your salary. And I just want to comment that you do an excellent job, and we should consider and pass this.
Thank you. I'm going to share just a little bit more history so that you guys understand the scope of what I learned. So Director Womack has been employed since 2016. However, she is the 5th lowest paid director out of our 35 in Metro. She's recently and successfully overseen the opening of one of the United States' only freestanding MLS soccer stadiums, which is a major accomplishment that, as everybody knows, has faced challenges over the years. This accomplishment, with her expertise and professionalism, should be commended and warrant that merit increase. According to Director Hall, an annual merit-based increase should not exceed 15%, and such increase must be funded by the department budget. Director Womack and her team can work with OMB to determine what increase can be funded, and my understanding from them at this point is that there is sufficient funding in the budget to accomplish the goal if the budget is approved by council this month as is. Given the information outlined above and other successful performance measures for which the Fair Board is aware, she did recommend that the Fair Board consider the open range increase of up to 15% for her subject to department funding ability. If there are no more comments, I will move for the vote. Or I'll call the question rather, sorry.
I'll just make a comment. In any environment, especially one like this, as well as in sports, when you have a star, you have to find a better role for them. When you're the executive director, there's not much of a better role, but I think that it is our duty to keep a star. And so, hats off to Laura for all her hard work over those years. So very much in favor for us to consider this.
Any other comments or questions? I'll just say that during my time on the Metro Council, this came up during budget every single year, and it was a discussion of how to retain the best talent and the disparity between the salary range and the way we manage our employees as compared to the private sector. So I am delighted and thrilled that you stayed with us as long as you did, and we're more than happy to be able to take this vote. And with that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are happy to see that happen. Okay, we will now, we're finished. So I will call for a motion to adjourn. I will call for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.